What is going on, everybody? It is Dylan with DFS bringing you a brand new video. Today's video, I'm going over the Thursday night showdown on both DraftKings and Fanduel, comparing prices, talking about players I like, and talking about advantages and disadvantages on both sites. So, at Baltimore at Miami, Miami's implied team total is at 19, and Baltimore's is at 27, somewhere around there. Now, the interesting thing about tonight is finding out who the quarterback of Miami is. Tua is questionable, but in my opinion, I think we're going to go Jacoby Brissett, so I'm going to go off of Tua being out. Now, I'll throw some stuff in throughout the video if Tua's in, but right now I'm just going to plan on Tua being out. So, on DraftKings, you can see the two most. We have three players over 10,000 if Tua plays. But basically two right now, Marquis Brown, Lamar Jackson. On FanDuel, you actually get a difference, and Marquis Brown is below both Miami quarterbacks, so whoever plays, you're going to get a discount on Marquis Brown on FanDuel rather than DraftKings. Then you get Mark Andrews, Mike Gesicki, Jalen Waddle on FanDuel. And you can notice a difference. Myles Gaskin is the next position player, and then you get Andrews, Waddle. So Gesicki and Gaskin are basically switched on the sites, and Mark Andrews is more on FanDuel than presented at DraftKings. So Latavius Murray is probably going to be out tonight. I'm also planning on him not playing. So Devontae Freeman is the number one running back, and honestly at 6,600 on DraftKings, getting the guy that's probably going to get a majority of the carries. Now, he is going to share the ball with Le'Veon Bell, and there is a chance Tyson Williams gets in there, but it looks like they're going to roll with Devontae Freeman. He's playing very well. On FanDuel, they actually did a little smarter. Latavius Murray is doubtful, and then Devontae Freeman at 10.5, so kind of where the price is, and then Lev Bell right there, 9,500 as well. And you go on DraftKings, Le'Veon Bell on DraftKings, you actually get a discount, and he's cheaper than Bateman and Watkins. You look down here, and you get a discount for Bateman and Watkins, which is incredible. And then you look, Baltimore's defense is 4,400, which is ridiculous. So Baltimore's defense hasn't been playing how we thought they'd play. You look at the last 2 weeks, they actually get you negative points. And they've only had two defensive performances that got you over 10 fantasy points. And then you get Miami's defense there at 2,800. Justin Tucker, of course, is going to be the more expensive kicker. Just easily better than Sanders. Sanders isn't all that bad, but Justin Tucker. And then said you get Bateman's at a discount on FanDuel. You get Watkins and Bateman at a discount on FanDuel. And then pretty much, I don't find a whole lot of value here. Now, don't get me wrong, if you're doing 150 lines, if you're maxing out your lines, you're going to have 1, 2, 3 of some of these guys down here. So the guys that you're going to find value, and it's not really even value. I don't want to say that. You get Tyson Williams at 1,200. You get Ricard at 1,000. Ahmad at 800, Shaheem at 600, and between Preston Williams, Isaiah Ford, Albert Wilson, that's value for receivers. Like, someone's gonna be the number 2 receiver, but we can look at their numbers, and I mean, it's all of them. So that's Albert Wilson there. I forgot Mac Hollins. I mean, he would be the number 2 option on Miami, but he's there in price. It's not really extraordinary value. So that's Albert Wilson. Merritt, I mean, he got in last week for a 13-yard reception. Preston Williams hasn't played since week 7. Isaiah Ford, 1 target a game. He got a 10-yard touchdown week 7. So it's not screaming value. That's not something that screams value. Now, someone like Patrick Ricard, if you're doing the 150 lines, he got 5 targets as a fullback last week. He got a touchdown last week. You'll probably want him in a couple lines. I wouldn't say any more than 10, and that's being very generous. But we go on Fanduel. And at Fanduel, you get Preston Williams is more than Matt Collins. Devin Duvernay, you get at a very good discount. He's $6,500 on Fanduel, $4,800. So Fanduel, you actually get him on a really good discount. That's almost the minimum. Devin Duvernay on DraftKings to equal that value would probably be around between $1,500 and $2,000. So you get these prices, like I mentioned earlier. There's not a lot. Josh Oliver there for Baltimore. So basically on FanDuel, the value that you guys are going to be looking at is someone like a Devin Duvernay, Tyson Williams, Ahmad, and then you get some of these cheap guys that are just darts. It's nothing. DraftKings, you do get Tyson Williams, you get Ahmad, and that's pretty much it. Kickers. So you're gonna have to be generous of who you're playing. So let's talk about the stars now. Lamar Jackson has been a passing quarterback this year. Although you look at his rushing numbers, and the last 2 weeks he's got 10 plus carries, and the last 3 out of 4 weeks he's got 10 plus rushing attempts, and the yardage is there too. The good thing about Lamar is if you look at his numbers, they're not rushing touchdown dependent. He's only got 2 rushing touchdowns this season, but you look at his passes. And here's the thing that stands out to me. If you look at his props, his passing attempt prop is 27.5 passing attempts, which is great value for me because you look at that and he's done that in all but 2 games this year. His passing yards was at 232 last time I looked. And you look at that, he's only not done that 1 game, which is crazy to me. But Lamar obviously is going to be the one guy that you probably want to get in your lineups. Just because of how dependent that offense is around him. Even in the run game, it's Lamar. So 13.8 would be the non-captain spot on DraftKings. And on FanDuel, you get him for 17.5, which is almost a third of your salary. So for instance, we go from an average of $12,000 a player to 10.6, but there's value. There's value on FanDuel. For instance, I like Rashard Bateman. That puts it up. And then we put someone like a Devin Duvernay in there. I mean, you can make it work on FanDuel. You can make it work on FanDuel easily. Now, let's, for instance, put Lamar Jackson in the flex. You go from 83 an average to 72, but I think it's doable with getting someone like a Justin Tucker automatically in your lineup. He's not a lock or anything like that, but he's someone that can easily get you 10 plus fantasy points tonight, especially Baltimore being on the road. Baltimore plays very good against non-conference opponents. Them covering the spread this year hasn't been the prettiest, but we're talking DFS and not betting. Betting will be in another video. Obviously, Marquis Brown is his guy. This is the connection we've finally been waiting for, is Lamar and Marquis Brown. You look at the targets, and it's because they're throwing the ball this season. That's the only reason. It wasn't anything with Marquis Brown being bad. I mean, we've seen him drop a lot, but it's not him talent-wise. It's just how they ran the offense, and this season they're passing the ball a lot more. So they're your top 2 guys. The question mark that comes in, and we have yet to see it this season, is having Sammy Watkins, who looks like he's going to play the game. You get Rashard Bateman, and you get Marquis Brown. We have not seen all 3 of them in the lineup, I think, except for... No, we haven't. I was going to say week 1, but I forgot he got hurt in the preseason. So it's going to be interesting to see how different the offense is of having all Bateman, Watkins, and Marquis Brown. Obviously, one of my favorite guys is Bateman. I think his price is fair. But he's gotten at least 6 targets in all 3 games since making his debut, which is huge. Now, you look at the Miami side, and although Baltimore's defense has been very lackluster and gives up a lot, you look at the passing attempts off someone like Jacoby Brissett. And it's ridiculous that 30 is the lowest amount of passing attempts he's had this season. Now, to correlate with that, you look at the amount of passing attempts and you look at the yards. And this is where I find value in Jacoby Brissett more than I do someone like Tua. Although Tua is probably going to get you the yards and be more efficient with his pass attempts. I mean, clearly, you look at the yardage compared. He's had 2 games at 300 yards, basically. But you look at his passing attempts, too, and they're there. My only thing with Jacoby Brissett being in is you get people like Myles Gaskin. You get the Mike Gesicki. Those guys are probably going to get targets. Jalen Waddle, obviously, is going to... Baltimore is going to plan around Jalen Waddle being their number 1 wide receiver and probably being the most talented wide receiver out there by a lot. So Miami's probably going to have to rely on Myles Gaskin and Gesicki to make some of those plays and free up someone like Jalen Waddle to make plays. So I'm not going to go with a Miami quarterback here. If 2 is in, it's a maybe. It really is, because you look at, like I said, just the amount of yards per completion, touchdowns, stuff like that. He's got 7 touchdowns in 5 games. I know it's not a lot, but you got to remember he also got hurt 1 week. So we'll just say 7 touchdowns in 4 games, which is almost 2 a game, which is all right. But if 2 is in, it's a question mark. If Brissett is in, it's a no for me for going Miami quarterback, and that's on both sides, especially on Fanduel. They're just too much. They are. So that brings me to Myles Gaskin. I think Myles Gaskin is one of the players that you're going to want to get for Miami. Although Baltimore, in my opinion, I see Baltimore's defense playing a lot better this game than they have in the past. And that's just lackluster of weapons from Miami. But Myles Gaskin is going to have a lot of volume tonight with Will Fuller for sure out, Devontae Parker for sure out, Waddle there. Not sure who your quarterback's going to be. Myles Gaskin's probably going to be out there a lot. So Myles Gaskin is somebody that I want to get tonight. Mark Andrews, we've seen Mark Andrews being used a lot more recently than he was in the beginning of the season. I mean, his numbers have been pretty consistent all season for a tight end. 5 is the least amount of targets. Very good floor. But he's one of the guys that's very dependable. His price at $8,800 I think is fair on DraftKings, and you go on FanDuel, it's $13. It's a little more expensive than I would like to get to, especially with all the weapons there. I mean, Marquis Brown is only $500 more. You get Devontae Freeman at a $3K discount. You get Bateman at a $5K discount, and you look at this, Devontae you get very cheap. So Mark Andrews is somebody that I'm going to get ownership of tonight, but it's not going to be a lot. But he's still somebody that can easily take over a game, easily. I mentioned Jalen Waddle is Miami's best wide receiver out there by far. Now, does that mean that any of the other wide receivers can not do anything? No. They are definitely in play. They're going to be on the field. They're going to be thrown to. But Jalen Waddle is probably the most dependable guy. But if you're looking for GPPs, those other guys are definitely someone that you have in a few lineups if you're maxing your lineups tonight. But Jalen Waddle is my favorite Miami skilled position player other than Myles Gaskin. So Mike Gesicki's easily there, and we've seen Mike Gesicki be used a lot this season. His floor, I mean, besides week 1, is 7. 7 for a tight end. The only thing that makes me not like him a whole lot is his price at $7,400. You look at it on FanDuel, 12.5. I just think there's value. Like, obviously on DraftKings, Myles Gaskin is a lot more, but on FanDuel, you get a discount on Myles. Like, let's just throw this in here really quick to just show the impact. So you could get Lamar, you can get Myles Gaskin, and Devontae Freeman, the 2 running backs for both teams, and still have 10-5 left over, which is crazy. There's not a lot of games to where you go the best quarterback, so the Lamar, and then get both starting running backs and still have a lot of salary left over. So it's different on DraftKings, so we'll just throw them in the flex, and we'll throw Gaskin, and we'll throw Devontae Freeman. You get 67 still left over. There's plays that you can get in there, but 6,700 left, or 6,700 leftover average per player. So that's kind of it's kind of ridiculous on FanDuel. We'll continue on though. If Latavius Murray for some reason is in, I still go Devontae Freeman. I don't think they need to rush Latavius Murray out there. They have a very talented running back group. They don't need to rush him in a game where they're favored by 7.5 points. So I can't see Latavius Murray playing. Rashard Bateman and Sammy Watkins are hand in hand in price, and Devin Duvernay is not far behind. You only get $1,000 decrease from Bateman to Duvernay. The only thing with Duvernay is Sammy Watkins is gonna get it. Is gonna be in more, so you're gonna get Sammy Watkins, Bateman, and Marquis Brown. We look at FanDuel. It's almost the same thing, except you do get a more discount on FanDuel than DraftKings. So Bateman is my number 2 guy. It goes Marquis Brown, Bateman. As far as wide receivers for Baltimore, I'd put Bateman in front of Mark Andrews, only because he has more potential to get those air yards. Mark Andrews is a third down guy every time. He's very dependable, and that's what you want out of a guy like Mark Andrews. Not even the tight end position, wide receiver, anything. You want someone like a Mark Andrews. Lev Bell at 5,400. If you're maxing out lines, you're gonna want to have some Lev Bell, just because they use their running backs. You look at his attempts last week; he got 11 for 48. He doesn't get you the receptions, but he gets a touchdown. He gets 11 carries, 48 yards. His price is not something that you love. But in play. FanDuel, in my opinion, on if you're playing him on FanDuel, he's just too much. You just go Devontae Freeman and leave Lev Bell out there. On DraftKings, you can go Lev Bell. I mentioned the Ravens defense at 4,400. I think they are in play tonight. Mac Hollins is their number 2 receiver. And that's only because his targets since getting in. And it's nothing crazy. 6 and 5, 3, 2, 1. I mean, even the yardage isn't the prettiest, but he does have 2 touchdowns in the last 3 weeks. And he has more consistency targets than any other wide receiver on that team besides Jalen Waddle in tonight. Dolphins defense at 2,800. You look at what Miami's defense has been able to do, same thing kind of with Baltimore. 2 plus 10 point performances, a 0 and a negative, and some kind of smaller numbers. I lean towards Baltimore's defense than I would Miami, even though they are the home team tonight. And then we mentioned value guys. So, like I said, I definitely think it's very easy to make a solid line tonight. But I'm leaning very heavy on Baltimore tonight. I think Baltimore has a very good game, and the score is not close. So thank you guys for watching. If you guys are interested in joining our Discord where we have plays, and we have NBA that has been killing it this year. Literally killing it. The link for that will be in the description down below. If you guys have any questions or feel that I was wrong about any players, or you agree with me, just leave a comment and we can have a conversation. I love talking football with people, so definitely get that in there. And yeah, guys, we'll see you in the next one.